Ever wondered how a nation could turn from one where human beings were bought and sold, to one where all men were free? Let's dive into the journey of the abolition of slavery. Imagine a time when the ownership of humans was the norm. So how did this dramatic shift occur? Let's unravel the story. The American Civil War, a conflict that tore the nation apart, was the catalyst for change. This brutal confrontation, lasting from 1861 to 1865, was more than just a battle between the North and the South. It was a fight for freedom, a struggle against the chains of slavery. Let's not forget the Emancipation Proclamation, that pivotal decree issued by President Abraham Lincoln in the midst of the war. It declared that all enslaved people in the Confederate-held territory were to be set free. This was an audacious move, a strategic play that gave the war a new moral dimension. It reframed the conflict as a fight against slavery, not just a dispute over state rights. However, the Emancipation Proclamation was not a magic wand that instantly freed all slaves. Its true power lay in its symbolism, its declaration of intent. It set the wheels in motion, turning the tide of public opinion, both domestically and internationally, towards the abolitionist cause. And what about the role of slaves in the war? It's a chapter often overlooked, but their contribution was crucial. Thousands of slaves seized the chaos of war as an opportunity to escape, heading north to join the Union Army. They served as soldiers, spies, and laborers, playing a pivotal role in the Union's eventual victory. The Civil War was not just a military conflict, it was a turning point in the nation's social and political fabric. It was a crucible that tested the nation's values and forced a reckoning with the brutal reality of slavery. The war exposed the deep-rooted racial and economic disparities that had been woven into the fabric of American society since its inception. The end of the war saw the defeat of the Confederacy and the beginning of a new chapter in American history. The stage was set for change, for the long-awaited abolition of slavery, but as we'll see, the journey towards freedom was fraught with challenges and setbacks. The Civil War set the stage for a dramatic shift, but the journey to abolition was far from over. The true change came in the form of the 13th Amendment, a powerful piece of legislation that would alter the course of American history. This monumental amendment, proposed on January 31, 1865, and ratified on December 6 of the same year, unequivocally declared that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist within the United States. The creation and adoption of the 13th Amendment was a painstaking process, steeped in a web of political maneuverings and moral debates. At the heart of it all were key figures who, despite the odds, championed the cause of abolition and pushed for the amendment's passage. One such figure was Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation of 1862 had already declared enslaved people in Confederate-held territories free, but he understood that a constitutional amendment was necessary to ensure the permanent abolition of slavery. The tireless efforts of Senator Charles Sumner and Representative Thaddeus Stevens, both staunch abolitionists, were instrumental in the amendment's adoption. Sumner, a senator from Massachusetts, was a passionate advocate for human rights, and his compelling speeches in the Senate helped sway public opinion. Stevens, on the other hand, was a sharp and formidable congressman from Pennsylvania, known for his unyielding stance against slavery. Their collective efforts, along with those of many others, led to the House of Representatives passing the 13th Amendment on January 31, 1865, with a vote of 119 to 56. This was followed by the state's ratification process, which concluded on December 6, 1865, when Georgia's approval provided the necessary 3/4 majority. However, it's worth noting that the 13th Amendment did not immediately free all enslaved people. Some states, particularly those in the South, resisted the amendment and continued to uphold slavery. It wasn't until the ratification of the 14th Amendment in 1868 that all persons born or naturalized in the United States were granted citizenship, including formerly enslaved people. With the ratification of the 13th Amendment, the institution of slavery was officially abolished. This marked a significant turning point in American history, setting the stage for a long and arduous journey towards equality and justice. The abolition of slavery wasn't the end of the journey for African Americans. In fact, it was just the beginning. The ink had barely dried on the 13th Amendment before the United States was thrust into a new era, one that held promise, yet was fraught with challenges. The abolition of slavery had laid bare the deep-seated racial prejudices that permeated American society, and these prejudices would not dissipate overnight. African Americans, once shackled by the chains of slavery, now found themselves grappling with a new kind of bondage. This was an era of discriminatory laws and practices, designed to circumvent the 13th Amendment and maintain the racial hierarchy that had been deeply ingrained in American society. These laws, collectively known as the Black Codes, were enacted by Southern states in the immediate aftermath of the Civil War. They restricted the rights of freed slaves, regulating their work, and even their movement. Many African Americans found themselves trapped in a system of sharecropping, a form of agricultural labor that was strikingly similar to slavery. In parallel, the rise of white supremacist groups, such as the Ku Klux Klan, posed a serious threat to the safety and freedom of African Americans. These groups used terror and violence to suppress the black population and to maintain white dominance in the South. The federal government, despite the promises of the 13th Amendment, often turned a blind eye to these issues. A lack of political will and the persistence of racial prejudices made it difficult for African Americans to secure the rights and freedoms promised to them. Yet, despite these formidable obstacles, African Americans continued to struggle for equality. They formed their own churches, schools, and businesses, carving out spaces in which they could thrive. They fought for their right to vote and to be recognized as full citizens of the United States. Their resilience and determination laid the groundwork for the civil rights movement of the mid-20th century, a movement that would challenge the racial status quo and usher in significant social and political change. The abolition of slavery was a monumental step, but the fight for equality was far from over. The abolition of slavery left an indelible mark on American history and continues to influence the nation today. As we delve into the legacy of the abolition of slavery, we find that it's far from being a closed chapter in history. Rather, it's a living, breathing part of the American narrative, woven into the fabric of our society and culture. The abolition movement, ignited by the tireless work of so many brave men and women, set the stage for a broader push for civil rights. It laid the groundwork for future movements, from women's suffrage to the civil rights movement of the mid-20th century. Each of these movements, in their own way, drew inspiration from the abolitionists' fight against oppression and their unwavering belief in the fundamental equality of all people. In many ways, the abolition of slavery has shaped the American identity. It has influenced our collective understanding of freedom, equality, and justice. It has inspired countless works of literature, art, and music, and has been a driving force behind some of our most significant cultural and societal shifts. Yet, the legacy of abolition is also a stark reminder of the deep-seated racial issues that continue to plague the nation. It underscores the long journey towards racial equality, a journey that is far from over. The echoes of slavery and its abolition can be heard in the ongoing discussions about racial justice, systemic racism, and reparations. Moreover, the abolition of slavery has played a crucial role in shaping our legal and political landscape. It has influenced constitutional amendments, landmark court decisions, and pivotal legislative changes. It has helped to redefine the relationship between the state and the individual, and between majority rule and minority rights. In essence, the legacy of the abolition of slavery is a testament to the power of societal change. It's a reminder of the remarkable capacity of humans to challenge the status quo, to fight for justice, and to effect profound transformations in our societies. The abolition of slavery was a turning point, a moment that defined the nation and continues to resonate today. The abolition of slavery was a journey, one that transformed a nation and its people. We've retraced this journey, from the bitter battles of the American Civil War to the momentous adoption of the 13th Amendment. We've seen how a nation, torn apart by conflict, took a stand against a practice that had been woven into its very fabric. The American Civil War, a tumultuous period of 4 long years, set the stage for this transformation. The conflict, fierce and bloody, was a stark reminder of the high cost of freedom. Yet, it was this very struggle that brought about the change that was so desperately needed. Then came the 13th Amendment, a beacon of hope in the aftermath of war. It legally ended slavery not just in the northern states but across the entire nation. This pivotal amendment was a turning point, a clear declaration that America was ready to move towards a future free of the chains of slavery. In the aftermath, we saw a nation striving to heal, to rebuild, to redefine itself. It wasn't easy, it wasn't quick, but it was necessary. The abolition of slavery was more than just a legislative act. It was a statement of intent, a promise of a better, more inclusive future. The legacy of this journey is still evident today. It has shaped American history, influenced its culture, and defined its values. The abolition of slavery was not the end, but the beginning of a long, ongoing journey towards equality and freedom. From a nation divided to a nation redefined, the abolition of slavery stands as a testament to the power of change and the enduring spirit of freedom.